Good day, everyone. Welcome to Trinity Music Academy and Allied Services Nigeria Limited. So, today we want to talk about DC to DC converter. It is one of the most important components on printed circuit board. So, we can have it on the analog board like this, and we can also have it on digital boards like this or digital motherboards. So the function of DC to DC converter is just to convert the input voltage and either steps it up or steps it down. So that shows that we have two types of DC to DC converter. The one that steps it up, that increases the input voltage and gives out the output of higher voltage, or the one that takes in a particular voltage and reduces it, that is step down DC to DC converter. So like we used to say, like the first thing to know as a technician is for you to be able to identify the components on the digital motherboard or analog motherboard. After you're able to identify it, you should be able to know the function. What is the function of this particular component? Number three, how will you test this particular component so that you will know whether it has fault or not? Then the last two are, how will I remove and solder it back, and where will I get the particular component? So we want to talk about DC to DC converter today. So like we used to say, like it converts input voltage and gives us a particular output voltage, but at different level. So because the same thing is what the voltage regulator does. Voltage regulator will take in a particular voltage and gives us a particular output voltage. But for DC to DC converter, is going to change the level of that voltage too. That shows that where we are going to need the DC to DC converter, the voltage regulator will not be able to work there, because voltage regulator does not change the level of the voltage. It only changes the value of that particular voltage. So we have so many panels here, and we're going to point at the DC to DC converter and will let us know the value they are supposed to supply. Now, this particular motherboard, analog motherboard or the power panel, so it is similar to what we have in PSR S900, PSR S910, PSR S700, and PSR S710. So this is the DC to DC converter on that particular power panel, and the function of it is to convert the 16 volts coming from this particular adapter. It will convert it to 3.3 volts and 5 volts respectively. That shows that this only one component is going to take in 16 volts and give it to 5 volts and supply gives an output of 5 volts and 3.3 volts respectively at the same time. So 3.3 volts are going to be here and here. Then 5 volts, this is for 5 volts, so 5 volts must be here, 5 volts must be here, and this is 3.3 volts. And that is what goes into the digital motherboard. That shows that we need different level apart from different values. So we need different level of voltage. What we need to use there is 3.3 and 5 volts. So for you to know that this particular component, which this converter is bad, you need to check whether it supplies 3.3 or 5 volts. As long as it supplies both voltage, then this particular component does not have issue. This is how to test this particular one. The same thing is applicable to this one. This is the power panel of Yamaha PSR S550, PSR S50. So this is the DC to DC converter there. So SK8050S, 8050S. So this one will take in 16 volts and supply out 5 volts. So for you to be able to test this one, if there is no 5 volts supplied out, that shows that the particular DC to DC converter is faulty. So you can identify it now. You can know the function is to convert 16 volts to 5 volts. So, and the how to test it, if it doesn't supply that 5 volts, that shows that it is bad. So what you need to do is to desolder it and replace it with another one. So for this particular panel, this is the digital motherboard for Yamaha PSR 1000. So it is similar to what we have in PSR 2000, similar to what we have in PSR 1001 and PSR 2001. So this is the DC to DC converter on this particular motherboard. It is the same thing as we have in this S. So it is SK8050S. That is the value of 8050J. So that shows that it's going to give us it's supposed to give an output of 5 volts from the output pin. So, and in case you see another one, maybe you see 8080, that shows that the output is supposed to be 8 volts. If you see 8060, the output is supposed to be 6 volts, and if you see 1890, the output is supposed to be 9 volts. So they are not just supplying the 9 volts, but they are also changing the level of the voltage. So if you replace this one with 7805, it's going to burn up, because what, this particular one will change the level, but 7805 is a voltage regulator. It does not change the level, and therefore it most heat will be generated from that one. This, the regulator is going to burn up. So that is for this PSR S9000. Then when we move on to this particular one, this is motherboard of Yamaha PSR S670, and this is the DC to DC converter. This to DC to DC converter of that particular S670, and it's supposed to supply 5 volts. So I want us to check it from the manual of it. So we can see this is Yamaha PSR S670. So we can see, so this is the DC to DC converter. What does it? It takes in 16 volts and supply out what, 5 volts. And like we said in the beginning of this particular video, that we can have step up and we can have step down on this same PSR SC70. So we have one, so that particular one is step down, but this one is step up. Look at this particular ICA, is a step up. This to this converter, you can see DC to DC boost. So this one converts the 5 volts and supply out 29 volts, and that is what makes the screen to come up. This one is like an inverter, so it's convert the 5 volts to 29 volts. So this one is a step up, or we can call it boost. So it increases the voltage that is coming, so it steps it up, so, and it changes the level of that voltage that is coming from that particular input. So for you to be able to identify this to this converter, if you have the schematics of that particular board, you'll be able to know. And let's move on to this. This is for Yamaha PSR E373. So this is the DC to DC converter. So this one convert the 12 volts coming from the power panel and convert it to 5 volts. So it is the 5 volt that goes to the backlight, and that is supplied to 3.3 volt that is here. So before everything will now supply to the CPU, to the RAM and other components. So let's move on to another panel. This is the for Yamaha PSR SX700. This is SX700. So we have the DC to DC converter here on it. So this is the DC to DC converter, and what it does is to convert the 16 volts that is coming from the adapter. So it's going to change it to 3.3 volts and 5 volts. Then lastly, we have the power management on it. Maybe next video we'll be talking about power management, so that we know the difference between voltage regulator, power management, and DC to DC converter. And here we have Yamaha PSR S950 digital motherboard. So this is the DC to DC converter there. So this one does only does two things. It's going to convert the 16 volts coming from this power panel that is plugged here. So it's going to convert it to 5 volts and 3.3 volts respectively. So the 5 volts will come here, then the 3.3 volts will be supplied here. So that we'll be able to supply to all these components on the digital motherboard. So if you want to test anything on digital motherboard, if voltage is not supplied into it, there's nothing you can test, there's nothing you can diagnose, unless you want to check the resistance or the continuity on it. And lastly for today, we'll be talking about this to DC converter for this montage. This is Yamaha montage 8 motherboard. So this is the DC to DC converter. What it does is to convert the 16 volts coming here. So it's going to convert the voltage coming here and convert it to 3.3 and 5 volts as well. I want us to go into the manual and see what it does here. So this is the DC to DC converter. So we can see, so it is 5 volts that is actually coming to it. So this is the 5 volts that is coming from the power panel. So then this converter will convert the 5 volts and turn it to 3.3 volts. So these are the voltage regulator. We can see that they are different. DC to DC is for DC to DC converter, and when you see reg, or you see regulator, so these ones are voltage regulator, and this one is DC to DC converter. I think we have for PSR S770 and S970 here too. So look at this one now. You can see DC to DC converter and DC to DC converter here as well. So this particular one is converting 16 volts that is coming from the power panel then it will convert it to 5 volts and convert it to 3.3 volts respectively at the same time. So just a particular component is giving us two voltages to different components on the digital motherboard. This is for S950. So this is for S750 and S950. So that is the function of this to this converter. They convert a particular voltage. They either increases it or they either increase or they decrease the voltage and changes the level of that voltage. So don't try to use voltage regulator for this to this converter. They are two different components and their functions are actually different. So that is what we want to teach us today. If you have any question or you need any inquiry, just feel free to call us on 070-344-81622 or 081-3402-5174, and you can also visit us as number 3 Victoria Close off Orchard Street along Isheri Demo Road, Lagos. Thank you.